Back in the 1930s, actor Bela Lugosi became synonymous with the classic vampires for the ages, Count Dracula. In fact, Lugosi became so identified with the role, he was typecast for the rest of his career. But on film, the character of Dracula became famous worldwide, and as our Tim Estiloz tells us, the classic film Dracula, we've all come to know and fear, also has a completely different face and language.
I am Dracula.
This is the Dracula we all remember from childhood, a horror classic that introduced Bela Lugosi as the blood-sucking Prince of Darkness.
This is Dracula, the original terrifying story of a maniac and a man who lived after death, lived on human blood, took the form of a vampire bat, and lured innocent girls to a fate truly worse than death.
But here's a near identical version that most American moviegoers have never seen. In 1930, at the same time Lugosi's Dracula was being made, Universal Studios also filmed a Spanish version.
La sangre de Drácula corre ya por las venas de la señorita Seward. Seguirá ella viviendo por toda la eternidad, lo mismo que he vivido yo.
The adoption of English-speaking talkies posed a real problem for the Latin American markets, which wanted to hear talking films spoken in their own language. Dubbing was still not an efficient and known commodity, and those studios that had the biggest interest in that market turned to doing secondary productions of their major films in Spanish versions for that market. Dracula was one of these pictures.
Soy Drácula. No podía usted ser más oportuno.
Casting executives at Universal Studios chose 17-year-old Mexican actress Lupita Tovar as the Spanish film's leading lady. Ironically, she describes the shooting schedule as like keeping the same hours as a vampire.
So the cast for the English version would come in the morning, started shooting at 8 o'clock, and the Spanish cast will come in the evening. We shot all night long till next morning, because we use exactly the same sets.
The cast and crew on the Spanish Dracula also had one minor obstacle to overcome.
Our director did not speak Spanish, but we had an interpreter, and somehow he had the ability to communicate with us.
Now, even though the Spanish version was second priority to Lugosi's film by the studio, that didn't stop the film's director and cast from striving for something special.
The initial crew, Browning's crew, would shoot these sequences. The second crew, the Spanish crew, would look at them and say to themselves, we can do better than that. And they would go and they would do better.
Something so incredible. I mistrust my own judgment. Mire.
What we do see in the Spanish version is, among other things, a much more artistic, a much more innovative use of camera movement in those early talkies. And the camera movements are far more fluid, there's far more of them. It's a more lively film to watch unfold before your eyes than the Lugosi film. One only wishes that Lugosi had been directed in like fashion as the Spanish version.
Venga. Aquí. Detente. No moverás tu mano hasta que yo lo quiera.
The Spanish Dracula was not only filmed differently, according to its leading lady, it was something else too. It was much more daring and sexier.
I remember when I saw the English version later, the wardrobe was different. The dresses that Helen Chandler wore were all covered up. What they gave me were big décolletés, you know, and what you would call sexy. I wasn't even aware of it.
Estás tan... Apenas puedo creerlo. Si pareces otra.
We Latins have a different way of expressing ourselves, you know. We are very emotional. And I think the American people were kind of subdued.
Your eyes, they look at me so strangely. Mina,
Mina, yo. No, Mina, no. Tus ojos. Me miran de un modo tan raro. ¡Oh, Emma!
I was very lively because that's the way I was. And nobody said, now look, tone it down or anything. They let me express myself, you know.
¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué te pasa?
Overall, the Spanish film is a real delight for film buffs because it's kind of like discovering all these fascinating new rooms in a familiar old house. And it's full of these wonderful optical effects and visuals that really seem ahead of their time.
We wanted our version to be the best. And according to the critics, I think it was.